be a good place to start. This may be a time. Let his letter of His Holiness Pope Francis to the popular movements. This may be a time to consider a universal basic income. I would agree with Pope Francis. Somehow we got this great Pope. Just wanted to put that in the very front. Propaganda for universal basic income. It's time. The AI revolution that's coming. We need it. I doubt if it'll happen. Probably the opposite will happen. They'll use the pandemic as an argument. Well, there'll be inflation if there's a universal basic income. So I'm not sure how long I'm going to do this. Just wanted to jump on. I'm an NPC live streamer. Doing my video game imitation live streaming. Apparently that's a genre. But I was sitting in this nice little Korean grocery store here in Soho. So Lisbon Street Garden right here where I've done many of my readings during the summers. Beautiful Elizabeth Street Garden. What was I talking about? Fuck, what was I just saying? There's this reading tonight. It's Eileen Miles' reading at Poetry Project. I guess it's in the parish hall. I'm kind of surprised. I thought it'd be in the sanctuary, but I'm not sure if I want to go or not. I have to work tomorrow. I don't know. But yeah, so I was sitting in this grocery store and I was charging my phone. For some reason, my phone charges faster when I'm watching videos. The miracle of, that's one of the things I get going for me in life. So I can watch videos while I'm charging my phone. And so I was watching my live stream from the Upper East Side the other day. And it was actually, I was watching, here's how I recommend it to people, is watch it with the sound off, with the subtitles on. And it's like reading, it's just like reading. Except you've got this nice kind of background. This nice kind of screensaver in the background. Your page is the city. Is the real environment. Is the buildings and the colors and the lights. And so, I don't know. It's such a beautiful day. It's like 80 fucking degrees. So I kind of want to just be out. I don't want to go in the stuffy poetry reading. The poetry's out here. The real poetry's out here. And I'm kind of protesting, to be honest. I don't know. Here's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, okay? Kiss my fat free ass. No, I'm not saying that exactly. I'm not exactly saying that, but I don't know, it's just such a beautiful neighborhood. I normally get off at Union Square. Oh, I don't want to give Ashley my my strategy once she finds out my secret places. But Soho is very alive, so I'm kind of having a good time walking around here. God, what am I going to talk about? Oh, well, one thing I was sort of alluding to in the last live stream, and thank everybody for watching and commenting and sending fucking notes and shit. Oh God, all these women are looking at me with my selfie stick. I'm so embarrassed. So yeah, watch my live streams with the subtitles on. It's the way to do it. The closed captioning. This is the grocery store I was in right here. Oh, it's Japanese. I'm sorry, it's Japanese. I had some kind of fried chicken thing. Okay, God, do I have anything? Maybe it's better if I just shut up. Maybe it's better if it's just a mood. People like mood. Yeah, I live streamed the System Lord practice last night. Some of you may have tuned in. Check it out. I was just running my fucking mouth. For people who have maybe not seen System Lord, I'd say it was a pretty good approximation of a gig, really. They sounded great. I was screaming. We haven't really done a proper System Lord in like 6 months. Since Freak Fest. That was the last time System Lord convened. the triumvirate of the Lord, the House of Lords, House of System, House of Lords. Oh, here's Balthazar. Someday we have to eat at Balthazar. The other day I ate at the Chipotle across the street from Balthazar. It's in my poetry. So I'm in poetry training. I really should be writing poetry right now. You know, or be at the Eileen Myles reading, the Pope of Poetry. Hear what Eileen Myles, you know, but I don't know. I just feel like I've kind of, I don't know. I probably rely on Eileen Myles too much. As far as like an influence or something. And I've seen Eileen Myles read a couple times at Poetry Project. And, you know, I don't know. It's time for Solitude in the City, After Hours, like the Martin Scorsese movie. Obviously, this is on Cinema at the Cinema. This is a film criticism podcast now. So I'm going to be talking about the films that I watched this weekend. You know, the idea is I'm sort of watching all these movies as like a preparation to, like, by watching, you know, and I don't know that this really, they have the same mode of thinking in any other art, but in movies, the thinking really is, you'll get good at being a film director if you just see shitloads of movies. You know, with literature, it's kind of like that. You have to read a lot. But, you know, in these MFA poetry programs, you don't even have to read shit. All you really have to do is write. With film, it's like, just watch a bunch of movies, you'll be Quentin Tarantino or whatever. That's what he did. He worked at a fucking video store. But it's like, that's so weird to me because the act of directing a film is so different than the act of sitting on your ass watching a bunch of movies. You know, like anybody can be passive, sit on a couch and just kind of receive. I mean, obviously you're reading the movie, you're studying the technique or something, maybe you're absorbing that. But you know, filmmaking is so much about communicating to people, managing a team, logistics, you know, the long haul, having a vision, answering the question, you know, being able to deal with all those people. And knowing kind of, you know, the shot grammar of how you want to say what you're going to say. Maybe don't go this way. Just kind of cruising Soho a little bit. It's a little live tonight, so I just kind of bounce around. Loner in the City style. Make a film noir here. A film noir film criticism vodcast. I don't know. I just find these walking and talking in the city, I just find them a lot of fun and pretty dynamic. They're kind of like the full realization of really what I want to do. This is really what my poetry is. It's just like walking around New York and the things that come into your head and recording them. And Canelli down there with the elite hang. The 1% of the 1%. They're all in Soho. Tribeca, Taylor's Loft. Where was I? Okay, film criticism. Yeah, I don't know. Watching shitloads of movies to become a better film director. That's the program I'm on right now. That's my diet regimen. Well, we've had this kind of like prolonged, kind of like moody, groggy spring. It's been kind of like cranky. You know, the year's not really waking up. It's kind of grumpy. There's a lot going on. So it's been kind of cold and rainy. So it's been good kind of, and you know, we live in a fucking unprecedented time where it's like literally you can watch any fucking movie you've ever wanted to could possibly see. So, you know, it's kind of like unearthing an era of my life. A lot of high school and college, I was pretty set on being a filmmaker, actor, writer, director, triple threat. You know, sort of a. And so I watched shitloads of fucking movies. I watched Criterion Goddamn Collection, foreign films, Kino Lorber, silent films, Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Orson Welles, You know, I still think Citizen Kane is probably the best movie ever made. Or I don't know. It depends on what you mean by best. You know, I think Citizen Kane invented a lot of the current visual. I don't know. Who the fuck knows? That's a whole can of worms in and of itself. But, I don't know. We're just in such an increasingly visual time. And, you know, as poets, I think we should think about, why do we even have to write things down? You know, I was thinking today, why don't I just record every line of poetry I think of on my fucking iPhone and make it into a montage and have that be the poem? Like, you don't have to write anything down ever to be a poet. You don't even have to be literate. Nature isn't literate. The birds aren't literate. I'm not necessarily against literacy. You know, I'm pro-literacy. But I think there's kind of an awesome beauty to illiteracy. If you've read any of my books, you probably know that I strive to be illiterate in certain ways. You know, it's about kind of radically mangling what they tell us to do. We're raging against the machine here, okay, guys? Right? I thought we were raging against the machine. You know, in the 90s, we were raging against the machine. Then 9/11 happened. Here's some ugly-ass fucking pop art for you. See, this is what New York is now. Like, whose idea was this? Whose idea is, like, these, like, appropriations of, like, board game shit? And, like, just, like, the worst aspects of, like, yesterday's pop culture. Like, fucking Richie Rich. Like, this shit is so ugly. This is a, you know, probably a fucking, you know, tens of thousands of dollars a month in rent a month for this fucking space in Soho. And this is supposed to be like a significant art. Like, who's buying this shit? It's all money laundering. It's gotta be. This is worse than fucking abstract expressionism, if you ask me. You know, there's all this fucking shit on the conspiracy theory internet about how abstract expressionism was started by the CIA. The CIA wanted to kill art. And so, you know, the Guggenheim Museum was started by the CIA, or the people who owned it were in the CIA, and, you know, they funded Peggy Guggenheim and blah, blah, blah. Maybe I'm just a sucker. I guess I'm just a sucker because I love abstract expressionism. I bought it hook, line, and sinker. I guess I'm just, you know, your standard, you know, neo-libtard. And loving it. And the you know, fading out in the decay of the empire as the money gets hoovered upwards by Raytheon. Look at this. Beautiful, beautiful commercial propaganda. That's why we love New York. The models, the ads, the big billboards. Proto-social media. New York was social media before social media existed. All of her peoples. God bless all of her peoples. Fly lesbian seagull. Fly lesbian seagull. Maybe we'll stop here for 1 second while I toke up everybody. It's been 15 minutes. I need a smoke. And maybe I'll read some poetry or something. So let me talk about some films. It's on Cinema at the Cinema. It's a real 5-bagger. Thanks for tuning in yesterday. We gotta let it breathe, everybody. You just gotta let it breathe.
Well, yes, but that's my exact.
Your mind
word
never lets it breathe. Life never lets you breathe. But it's true. There's an ebb and flow, a catch and release. So the movies we watched, what the fuck did we watch? We watched The Insider. We watched Shampoo. Shampoo, sort of a spiritual predecessor to Bulworth in a way. Shampoo was okay. It's Hal Ashby, who people love, Harold and Maude, and The Landlord, which is a pretty interesting Hal Ashby movie about Park Slope. To all my Park Slope G's, where you at? Where my Park Slope G's at? Throw your signs up. Park Slope, ride or die. South Slope. Shampoo. It was okay. I mean, it was all right. Jack Warden, it might be the best Jack Warden performance. Jack Warden's kind of, you can see his vulnerability and his pain in this film, and all the pain that Warren Beatty brings into his life. Warren Beatty just plays the ultimate kind of male bimbo. It's really about the 60s. At least that's kind of how I felt about it. It was like, it takes place, funnily enough, the evening before Nixon got elected. I don't know why Nixon is such a cinema fixation. The 70s. You know, the 70s, why was that such a powerful decade in movies? The Easy Riders, Raging Bulls. And it's interesting because if you look at the 60s, it's kind of true. There aren't as many interesting films in a way. You know, is that because something like independent film didn't quite exist in the same way that it would? But there's like I guess maybe that's influence of French New Wave. There's like a more personalized voice in a way. One of the things, shout out to, God, hold on. I was reading this article, it was pretty interesting about how these directors kind of switch genres. You know, they were really, like Altman. We watched all these Altman movies. We watched Three Women, we watched Pret-a-Porter. I recommend Pret-a-Porter. That's my pick of the week. Ready to Wear. But Altman kind of does like noir, detective, Philip Marlowe shit. Big ensemble music stuff. I didn't really realize how influenced Christopher Guest was by Robert Altman. I think there's a lot of... We watched part of this movie, Beyond Therapy, which is very interesting. It's a Robert Altman movie from the late 80s, but it's shot in Paris as New York. So they used Paris as a stand-in for New York, which is kind of weird. We didn't get that far into it. It's kind of homophobic. So we didn't watch that much of it. Jeff Goldblum's in it. He's a classic Altman guy. But Christopher Guest is in it. Best in Show kind of feels like a big Altman kind of ensemble. It feels kind of like Pret-a-Porter in a way. I mean, you could say Pret-a-Porter is just a satire of fashion. It feels like anytime you do something about fashion, they're going to say that it's like a satire because it's kind of a clownish world, the clothes, and, you know, it seems kind of like, I don't know, shallow or ditzy or, I don't know, ridiculous. But to me, I just thought that the movie was actually a pretty accurate portrait of the fashion world. You know, that kind of milieu. It's an interesting thing to make a film about. It's certainly visually, you know, very interesting. Not too many people have done that, I don't think. And, yeah, it didn't seem to be making fun of the people that much. The thing that kind of escalated it to another level to me was Marcello Mastroianni and Sophia Loren. Having them in the film, you know, kind of relates it, and Anouk Aimee, you know, having all these Fellini actors kind of relates it to La Dolce Vita. You can see that as an influence in the Altman movies, 8½, these big kind of Fellini, wild, he's the director who's kind of the master of all these kind of elements and all these actors. And Three Women is really an incredible movie. It's very unique, and it's a little bit more, even though it kind of has the Altman kind of expanse and panorama, the sets are incredible, the fucking colors in the movie. He's really like a painter, the way he kind of choreographs all the, you know, harmony of the colors and shit, and the angles. You know, rather than, the thing that drove me nuts about Altman, and the thing I didn't really like about it when I saw it when I was younger,
his panning and zoom, you know, he directs it like it's a big live TV play or something, where it's like he sets up his actors like on a stage in these kind of amazing tableaus, kind of like Wes Anderson. You know, those directors you can tell loved Altman, Wes Anderson, P.T. Anderson, but he'll just set up these kind of tableaus, these incredible settings, the colors, you know, everything, costumes, and then he just kind of stands back and zooms in and pans on shit. He'll zoom super far in, and I can see that now, but when I was younger, I thought zooming was kind of a cheesy. It's just like it's the easiest of all the camera effects. Zooming is like, all you do is press a button and it kind of robotically, whereas like dollying, you know, a steady cam, there's a kind of a movement, there's a kind of a grace to that, there's a float to that. That's kind of angelic. Zoom felt very like robotic, clinical, surgical. Should I have gone to the Eileen Miles reading? Maybe I should have. God damn it. I'm tired. I gotta work tomorrow. I'd rather stand on this corner and NPC cosplay. I'm NPC cosplaying. In the chat, let me know what actions you want me to perform. My friends in System Lord were telling me in Soho, there's these guys that stand out with their phones on tripods and they do NPC cosplay. And if they probably have shitloads of more followers than I do and make money doing it. Me, I'm an actual NPC. One. Thank you for watching. So 3 women. I mean, 3 women. For some reason in the 70s, it felt like there's all these like psycho, obsessive, like women, sister, like Carrie. It's perfect that Sissy Spacek is in the movie. To me, because it kind of has undertones of the Carrie thing, where it's like, I don't know, this kind of like, maybe that was just the beginning of the movie, but to me the movie did feel like some kind of like, there's a lot of movies, like Cable Guy, about somebody that's obsessed with somebody else and just like wants to like take over their whole life and be exactly like them. Like Sissy Spacek wants to be like Shelley Duvall in this movie. You know, I wasn't watching it that closely, but Ashley loved it. It's like I think it's Ashley's favorite movie now, and it's very Ashley core. The colors, you know, it's very well done. Don't get me wrong, it's a total masterpiece. 3 Women is a fucking masterpiece, but it's got a little too much plot for me. It just feels like this maxed out like TV movie about like this girl that's obsessed with this other girl, and sort of the dangers of that or something. But it's amazing. It's kind of surreal. It's got all these dudes with their shirts off shooting guns. Altman's like a huge guy with a hairy chest. He had multiple families. He would wear like a kerchief around his neck. So he's a man's man, you know. So you can see that in his movies, that he kind of commands these big casts of big name actors and beautiful people, and he just kind of rodeos it all together. His movies feel very West to me. They feel very California, desert, huge expanse, but also the kind of color scheme of that, the kind of Mediterranean, you know, very, very festive, very colorful. Pret-a-Porter, to me it wasn't, if you're just looking at it as a satire, I thought it was very well done. I thought all of the bits worked. I thought it was a nice performance for Marcello Mastroianni. You know, he kind of has this silent movie thing where he's kind of like, and then at the end, you know, he has scenes and stuff where he kind of reveals, you know, maybe it's frivolous and like kind of a light comedy, but, you know, I remember when it came out in the 90s, it got panned. You know, you thought it was going to be this amazing film because the cast was so stacked. It's Julia Roberts and Tim Robbins and, you know, those Fellini actors, Marcello Mastroianni, for crying out loud. It's one of the things that's interesting about it, and sort of a Christopher Guest thing, is the way that he weaves the actual fashion world into the fictional world of the movie. It's almost like a documentary about the business and that year of Fashion Week in Paris. A lot of the scenes, they're sitting right on the runway. It's very well done. You know, it's very seamless. It's very integrated into the real events and the real shows, and they get the real designers. They got Jean-Paul Gaultier and shit, interviews, you know, on camera. Who is it? Kim Basinger plays like this Southern fashion reporter lady. Robert Altman loves Southern women. That's what, you know, he loves that kind of Southern. I think he's from Kansas City, but he loves that kind of energy. I think that's cool. He likes kind of fairer, you know, like skin, fair, Shelley Duvall or, you know, Sissy Spacek, kind of freckles. So I think he's an artist. I mean, he's definitely a major American artist, a unique American artist. He's got that kind of big top quality, but it's very colorful and he's like a painter in a lot of ways. And so Pret-a-Porter, definitely recommend. Three Women, amazing. The Insider, should I keep talking about it? Maybe I'll keep walking.
This is my life now. Watching fucking movies. Oh, let's go to Cipriani downtown, shall we? I'll tell you, the most beautiful people. If you want to see some people watching, just hang out at Cipriani downtown, okay? Because that's where the 1% of the 1%, that's where they're going to have a light snack. Cipriani's downtown. That's where the protest should go. That's where they should start. Oh, God. Oh, there's a techno gym. Maybe I'll just go around roasting stores. Techno gym. Oh, wow. That sounds super futuristic and cool. Techno gym. Holy shit. Sounds super technical. Sounds bionic, like you're going to be the fucking Terminator if you go there. Oh, God. Who can even afford to live in this fucking neighborhood? Kendrick Lamar, I just saw he bought an apartment in, what's this? OK Harris. First gallery. Oh, okay. He just bought an apartment in fucking Dumbo for like $8 million. So, I don't know, man. He saw the Seth Rogen video explaining why rap is very exciting right now. It's like here's Dia Soho. I had no idea that's where Dia Soho is. Okay, on West Broadway. That makes sense. I guess this used to be this was like the street, I think, where it all kind of started. A lot of these art talks I'm filming and stuff are with gallerists that started on West Broadway in one of these spaces back in the day when everything was down here. You know, that's the cycle of gentrification. That's why I was showing that awful pop art. Oh my God, look at this. Earlier, because like now that's where we're at in the life cycle. Okay, it's like a roller flash mob. Look at this. You just never know what you're gonna happen into in a live stream in New York. Look, there they go. Look at that, only in New York, everybody. Just getting everybody for the facial recognition, for the facial recognition programming. Oh, is this what is this? What is this for? I guess it's just nice out. How did they organize this? Is this a Discord server or something? Everybody who owns rollerblades. Everybody who owns rollerblades, meet up at this place. Peter Glissman, shout out to Peter Glissman. Peter Glissman was telling me that's how he used to get around New York. He used to go to open mics and shit, because he lived on the Upper East Side or something. So he'd like fucking rollerblade to like open mics and shit. Back in the fucking 90s. Well, that was exciting. Wasn't that exciting? Only in New York, you're gonna see how many, probably 1,000 fucking rollerbladers. I'm not even gonna make a joke about the gay joke about rollerblading. It'd be too easy. You know, I think I've been hanging around stand-up comedians too much because, like, it's just a whole different sense of what's acceptable and things that you're like thinking about or trained on. But I digress. I digress from the digression here. Up here, this is where they shot that movie, The Day Trippers, up on this corner. See, this is live filmmaking. This is just on the go. This is my Russian arc. 2 hours, one shot, no, one take, no cuts, no digital manipulation, just roll. One and done. Yeah, that movie. Oh, look, they bulldozed the fucking building. Of course they did. With Parker Posey. Parker Posey's in it. Liev Schreiber. They shot that on this fucking corner. So, I don't know. Movie glamour, everybody. Movie trivia. There it is. What the hell was I talking about? Well, we were just talking kind of about movies. Oh, I was talking about the Seth Rogen explaining, Kendrick Lamar, Drake, rap beef. It's just a shame that we've gotten to this place as a culture. I think rap has been fully, gentrified. At this point, Seth Rogen is at the Hollywood Bowl explaining this to, the white people. Guys, it's a really exciting time for rap. If you're not a rap fan like I am. I just feel bad for Kendrick Lamar. You're not, he doesn't need you to say that. I haven't seen, but I see these commercials for the Everyone's in LA show. John Mulaney live show on Netflix. And, I know I've talked so much shit about John Mulaney on my live streams, and to be honest, I still don't know that much about him, or I haven't seen that much of his actual stand-up. But there are certain things that he's done that have grown on me. I can see. I like the Stefan skits from Saturday Night Live with Bill Hader. I see those on TikTok. Shout out to Huggy. Follow Huggy on TikTok. Huggy has got your SNL fucking hookup. It's unbelievable how many Saturday Night Live, hits there are. This one, it's just endless. This one popped up yesterday. You like it as sauce, huh? This sauce is good, huh? You like it as sauce, huh? That's something that's, lives rent-free. It's in there, it's in, the back of your head at all times, but it just needed to be revealed. You like it as sauce, huh? Cajun Man was like that, Opera Man. But there's so much Saturday Night Live shit I haven't seen, like that Stefan stuff. And I think John Mulaney wrote that. It sounds like him. The ads they make for that show are really good with Richard Kind. I think it's great he's got Richard Kind. I've always loved Richard Kind as his sidekick or whatever. He's Clifford's dad. I mean, what could be more legit than being Clifford's dad? Richard Kind has always been, So I feel like John Mulaney is probably, he's living, if fully realized. He's into the same shit that I'm into. He's into Spalding Gray and fucking My Dinner with Andre and shit. Spalding Gray lived in Soho, in this neighborhood, in a loft with Renee. Renee! My hero, Spalding. These are really meant to be instant coffee Spalding Gray monologues. Just taking life and immediately turning it into a Spalding Gray solo show every 3 days. Here's what happened to me. I walked home last night through Bensonhurst. I walked home from System Lord practice in Bay Ridge, even though my sciatica is killing me. It was not exciting at all. It was scary and dark. It was an industrial wasteland. And, it felt kind of ghetto. Not it felt it's like Midwood except worse. It's like if Midwood was a ghetto. which it kind of already is.
Check it out. Check it out.
I'm
Like
good,
the
man.
man
I'm
it
good,
works.
man. Thank you. It's legal. It's legal in this state. Did we get that? This guy just tried to sell me flowers on. Did you get that? Did you see that? This is what's exciting about living in New York, everybody. Okay. What have we seen in the last 5 minutes? We saw a rollerblading mob, and a guy literally just tried to sell me weed on my live stream. Hi, Mom. I'm just talking to my mom. Hi, Mom. This is just a video call with my mom. So where does cinema begin and selfie video calls end? You know, what's the difference at this point? Cinema's disintegrating as far as Hollywood goes. The business, the language of cinema is just going to liquefy and reshape before our very eyes. That's why I talk about TikTok a lot. I think it's important to talk about just as sort of like a medium or a tool. The way that it is sort of this living montage, I find very interesting. The way it's, because montage really works in a video. The discontinuity is not unsettling. That's why I just write discontinuity in my poems, because it's channel surfing. We've lived in channel surfing since I was born. Before I was born, there wasn't a remote control, so you had to get up and change the channel. That was a different universe. Now we live in, ADHD 4-year-old makeup influencers on YouTube doing tutorials about foundation or whatever. 4-year-old John Benet Ramsey imitators. It's not good for your skin. That's why all Gen Zs looks like they're 40 when they're 20. Because they've been 4-year-old makeup influencers. Smoking vapes. Yeah, so, TikTok just grabs from every goddamn thing. I wish there was more poetry on it. And it kind of levels out the hierarchy where it's like you're seeing Saturday Night Live, you're seeing the news, a lot of times it's like Twitter and that. If I get on TikTok, a lot of times that's where I'll hear about stuff. That's where I heard about Richard Lewis dying. That's where I heard about, the OJ dying. And maybe it's just because I'm on TikTok all the time. If I'm not on YouTube or with Ashley or at an open mic, I'm probably on TikTok. But it is like this generative movie that's never ending, right? You're seeing all the clips from everything ever made. Sopranos clips. I see all kind of NBA stuff, so now I've gotten into basketball and shit. I know more, Unk. The Jordan is cooked, Unk. I'm trying so hard to be young and relevant. It's pathetic. We done with the 90s, Unk. I'm Unk now, okay? But I'm trying to, bring poetry into TikTok to some degree, in the same way that I use YouTube as sort of like just a stage to do whatever, do band practice, do poetry readings, do live thought jams, thought parties for everybody where I'm just throwing out ideas, free use, generative, it's like The Spore, it's like Will Wright, the visionary game designer Will Wright. My favorite games were always they were always open-ended. SimCity, right? SimCity was way essential and ahead of its time. The fact that as a child, that game you could urban design, and it was sort of teaching you like urban design principles and shit, was like, it, and so it was an improvisation. It was open. It wasn't just a linear thing where there's only one track and one way to do it and you're just overcoming obstacles like every other fucking 2D platformer or whatever. Video games being like, anytime I encountered like a problem in a game, I just stopped playing. If it became too hard, that's been my approach to life. Maybe that's why I'm such a fucking, I don't know, weak person. But like playing Zelda, if a puzzle got too hard or something, it's just like, okay, I'm not going to play this game for 6 weeks. I can't handle that stress, and that's not why I'm playing a video game. If I want to do that, I get a job. You know, SimCity, it's like there's kind of an ease to it. I'll bet Eno loves SimCity. Didn't Eno and Will Wright collaborate on something? The Sims, come on. Everybody played The Sims, right? The Sims was one of the things that taught me about urban design, about the harmony of living, which is like one of the obsessions of my work and my life, because it just affects us so much. We live in these environments where this stuff is dictated to us, and it's bad ergonomics. It's bad lifestyle ergonomics. Just that's why you have to live in New York, because it's multi-use design. You have apartments, you know, over commercial storefronts, mixed use. You have a walkable, quiet, green, you know, there's a park right here. There's bigger avenues. There's trains and shit. It's unlike everywhere else in the United States, pretty much, which is single use, single family homes, yards, driving, pavement. I mean, TikTok, that's a huge fucking thing on TikTok. Maybe just for me, maybe that's just the Black Mirror, but I hope you're on urban design TikTok, learning about the car conspiracy and how American design sucks, and we're trapped in this suburban hell. And I mean, when I lived in Columbus, Ohio, I was obsessed with this stuff there. I was obsessed with why do we have to drive everywhere, and why, you know, I drive my car to fucking write my poetry in a Panera Bread or a fucking Starbucks and a Barnes & Noble in a parking lot with 700-800 spaces in it at a multiplex theater / Target / Bath and Body Works. You can't walk to it. You got to drive your fucking... Every individual person driving this gas-guzzling isolation armor. And Americans think that's normal, that they've become entitled to car domesticity and the reign, you know, over their own, you know, you want the domain. As you're traveling through the world, you're really in a private room. It's like you're driving your apartment around. In New York, it strips you of that pretty much completely. You're crying in public. You're getting robbed on the train. People are selling you weed right in the middle of your live stream. You just can't get any peace. That's how it's supposed to be. As human beings, we're meant to be forced into this kind of interactive solitude, right? New York, you can really be alone. Nobody will bother you. You know, I love being alone. It's just, it's sad when you're alone in like the middle of nowhere. Then it feels like, okay, this is boring and hopeless. In New York, it's like, yeah, I get to be alone, but I get to look at interesting things. I get to walk around, look at interesting things, you know, totally with my own sovereignty. But there's also like a vulnerability. You're not in this shell, like in a fucking car. You're in this big kind of snail, hermit crab armor, tank. They're military, goddamn. Look at these fucking cars, you know? They all look like Halo fucking... You know, they look like fucking Master Chief would drive that shit. You know, or who's the bad guys in that fucking space opera?
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, we're taking comments, calls. Call me, 347-790-4471. Our lines are open. If anybody's got anything to say, Marianne in Brooklyn. You know, also economic things. This is one reason why I harp on economics, because it really, there's so much that interferes with your freedom in this country. Contrary to the propaganda that we've been fucking, you know, hammered with since our birth into this criminal corporation, shell company, offshore holding military front, gun arms dealer to the world, war machine, murder machine, death merchant, freedom, right? It's supposed to be about freedom, right? You gotta have money to be free. And if you don't have money, you have to work. And if you work, you're not free, really. You're free a couple weeks a year. The weekends, you're kind of free. In the evenings, you're kind of free. You know, you're free to watch fucking television programming, which tells you how to think, how to act, how to stay in line. The sheeple, right? That's why we're on fucking YouTube. To get the unvarnished truth, not the propaganda, the lifestyle propaganda from the CIA operative centers in Hollywood. I mean, TikTok has definitely turned me into... Well, okay, this is kind of what The Insider is about, okay? I think this is one reason why Criterion Channel put The Insider on... Put The Insider on. They just put a bunch of new movies on, May 1st. And I've wanted to see The Insider forever, but it's really about a whistleblower. You know, Russell Brand's character is really a whistleblower. He's a scientist who works for the tobacco companies, and they get Michael Gambon and all these fucking actors to play these hard-ass dickhead tobacco execs. They're all southern assholes. You motherfucker, we'll kill your whole family. And so it's like the first half of the movie is about... It's one of the things that I thought was interesting about it and I wanted to see was how they portrayed 60 Minutes. Because it's really about 60 Minutes doing... It's one of these cheesy Hollywood movies that kind of valorizes journalism. Not that journalism shouldn't be valorized, but it's kind of a corny Hollywood thing. There's always a fucking movie that's about like the ethics of journalism and, you know, we have to protect our sources and blah, blah, blah. And that, you know, having lived through the fake news era of the last few years, it's hard to know which way is up anymore. Hey, my man, what's up? I'm in Soho. But I'm talking about the movie The Insider. Russell Crowe. I think Russell Crowe... Supposedly Marlon Brando watched The Insider a lot. According to Russell Crowe. There's a clip of Russell Crowe and Howard Stern. And he's talking about... Marlon Brando gave him this poetry book by the poet Kavanagh, who I have no fucking clue who that is. Apparently it's an Irish poet. Patrick Kavanagh. And Jack Nicholson gave this book to Marlon... Or no, Marlon Brando gave it to Jack Nicholson to give to Russell Crowe after he died. And supposedly Marlon Brando watched The Insider like all the time in his compound, in his weird kind of man cave where he would invent things. And, you know, Marlon Brando would have been on Twitch. Marlon Brando would have had the most incredible live stream. I mean, one of my favorite genres of literature is like Marlon Brando interviews. Find any Marlon Brando interview you can find and just watch it, read it. The dude is a performance tour de force just in his conversation. That was the fucking show. All that shit in Apocalypse Now about they're an errand boy sent by you know, all of that is just Marlon Brando just running his fucking mouth and just spitting his game. That's all Marlon. That's not Colonel Kurtz. All that shit about, you know, we rain fire from the sky. And then teach men to... I haven't seen it in a long time, but that's all Marlon Brando live streaming, basically. That's his Twitch live stream. So he would be on Twitch. It's too bad he's not... Apocalypse Now, yeah. Oh, yeah. Marlon Brando's autobiography is called Songs My Mother Taught Me. Somebody was saying, I think it was Dennis Hopper, they were talking about him on Later with Bob Costas. And he's like, he read Brando's autobiography and a biography of him at the same time. But he's a Midwestern. He's from Nebraska. God damn it. And there are no Marlon Brandos anymore. It doesn't exist, okay? It just doesn't exist. That revolution is over. It's all live streaming now. If you're an edgelord Twitch streamer, you are Marlon Brando now. If you're like, you know, video game... live streamer. So yeah, The Insider is really about whistleblower, which it's a scary time. This Boeing whistleblower was unalived by these companies. You know, these companies are mafias. They will kill you. They will kill you. And then the second half of the movie, I gotta say, it's a pretty subdued Al Pacino performance. Considering it's late 90s, after Heat. It's kind of like Heat. The Insider is kind of like Heat, except take all of the like action and the bank robbers and the crime out, and then it's, you know, it's about 60 Minutes. Replace it with Mike Wallace. And Pacino plays this kind of like crusading, like hippie, like Ron Kuby. We went to the Columbia MFA prom. I should talk about that. I went to the Columbia MFA prom at Riverside Church. I don't know if Gary Steingart was there.
Steingart, where are you at, you coward? Yeah, exactly. It's the one about smoking. It's very boring. It's about journalism and ethics of journalism. I gotta say, Christopher Plummer was pretty good as Mike Wallace. It's just interesting to see that Michael Mann style, that extreme widescreen, the way he does close-ups, his lighting, applied to something as banal as like 60 Minutes reporting. He tries to make it this, interesting kind of espionage, hardcore thing. It starts with this whole sequence where you're blindfolded in Hezbollah and they're in the Middle East. Al Pacino's like negotiating with terrorists to show you what a hard ass he is, and that he'll go to the ends of the earth for the story. And so it's kind of an interesting look into that high-powered kind of New York legacy media broadcasting. 60 Minutes is the #1 news program on television. Will not be compromised. Christopher Plummer, he doesn't go so far as to like do like a Gary Oldman or like a fucking, impersonation of the guy like now every actor does to get an Oscar post Ray Charles movie. Everybody wants that music biopic imitation Oscar where they do the walk the line voice. They just keep cranking these fucking music biopics out. I guess people need heroes. They're superhero movies is really what they are. They're origin stories and here's how they did it. And these people are like transcending and saving us emotionally. It's just amazing how they keep cranking these fucking movies out. Fucking this Chalamet Bob Dylan movie really looks like a piece of shit. The guy who directed Ray is doing it. They already did pretty much, I don't know. I guess it's cool to see that they're doing like a 1960 Bob Dylan movie, but like a Cafe Walk and a Gaslight era Bob Dylan movie, but I don't know. Enough with the goddamn biopics. So, Shampoo, I want to talk about Shampoo. Yeah, this is my movie. Maybe I'll read some poetry real fast. Should I start walking? Fuck. Let me read for a second. Truly great biopic. I'm interested in biopics, and this is one of the aspects of movies that I'm really, on board with, and I'm trying to be optimistic about the future. We might be moving into a post-literacy fucking world. I mean, maybe that's hundreds of years down the line. Literacy might be certainly critical thinking skills are like a fucking luxury item now. You have to be in a good zip code or something to have critical thinking skills. They just are not going to teach you that unless you have good parents who spend time with you and have time to spend time with you. But more and more people are just hooked on fucking videos and watching videos and listening to fucking shit on the internet. The internet is becoming more of a video medium. And so biopics, I think, are a great way to learn about, and honestly, for better or for worse, they become what people believe. Whatever they put the biopic in, I guarantee you, way more people are going to learn about the person from that than any other goddamn thing. Written biographies included. And so, for better or for worse, I remember I saw this biopic of Houdini when I was a kid. Tony Curtis as Houdini. I think it was made in 1950. Janet Leigh plays his assistant and his wife. Because when I was in second grade, I was obsessed with Houdini. And it's really not factually correct at all. I think he dies, he does the ice, there's things about it that are reminiscent of Houdini's life. But it's probably more people are going to see this fucking Houdini movie and learn about, or, The Insider. People are going to learn about this story. They're going to learn about Big Tobacco. They're going to see this movie and be like, oh, shit, okay. So that's how it went down. And so, also, I'm kind of obsessed with poet biography, lives of the poets. I think one of the most hated on pieces of literature is Boswell's Life of Johnson. People in English programs, I remember when I was, in college or whatever, people telling me the worst thing you're ever going to read is Boswell's Life of Johnson. And it's just not true. Because all Boswell's Life of Johnson is a fucking live stream. It's just a podcast. Literally, this guy
followed Johnson around and like wrote down the shit that he said that was like witty. His conversation, you know, this was like the 17 fucking hundreds. They couldn't record anything other than writing it down, you know, maybe in shorthand or something. And so they were in coffee houses. You know, he was like a coffee house raconteur. Johnson wrote the first dictionary, if you can believe that. Johnson literally wrote the first dictionary in the English language. It's hard to believe. I think his dictionary was more kind of a selective, you know, poetic kind of piece. It wasn't necessarily kind of trying to be comprehensive or anything like that, but he also was a biographer of poets. He kind of wrote a number of short vignette pieces about the lives of poets through history. He's got this amazing one about Richard Savage, who was sort of a poet who died poor and unknown. And, you know, this bio of him is as important to his existence and his poetic legacy as anything. The fact that Samuel Johnson, the biographer of the poets, took the time to write this 100-page story, to me, as a poet, as somebody trying to do it, or, you know, it's like you're sort of emulating it, or, you know, I don't know, it's a script almost in a way, or you know, it's a model, it's a way to prime yourself, it's a way to have something to relate to, it's a picaresque, you know, it's an adventure. And so it's one of my favorite genres. And music biopics are really literary. They're really lives of the poets. It's really the same thing. And so it's kind of exciting to me in a way that music biopics are like, you know, there, but I guess they've always been a thing. They've been doing them, you know, since the fucking 50s. They had fucking Little Richard movies and fucking, you know, Alan Freed's story or whatever. Al Jolson, the jazz singers, that's sort of a music biopic in a way. The first talkie ever. The racist, black-faced, you know, first movie ever was blackface music biopic. Minstrel show. So, it's twisted. Hollywood is twisted. Great Balls of Fire. What's the best music biopic? I mean, to be honest, I know Gary Busey has done everything he can to fucking destroy his filmography and make it unwatchable, but the Buddy Holly story, I gotta say, is probably one of my favorites because they actually played the music. The way that they played the songs in that movie is so exciting, and it really makes the Buddy Holly music come to life because you see it for what it is. You see it as this really brilliant, simple thing that you can expand upon and build out on, but at its essence with guitar, bass, and drums is actually pretty amazing live. And so, as far as like, you know, all the other ones just seem fake as hell to me, to be honest. I mean, all the ones where they're doing impressions like Ray or Walk the Line, that's just stunt acting. I don't know why the Academy goes for that. It's just like a glitch in the system. The same thing where they go for the performances, right, where they don't go full retard, you know. The Academy just has a certain penchant for those kind of stunt performances where actors lose a lot of weight or something. They just like that shit. And, you know, Gary Busey didn't sound exactly like Buddy Holly. Would Buddy Holly be embarrassed that he's portrayed by fucking Gary Busey? Hey, Buddy Holly, guess who's playing you in the biopic? Gary Busey. From I'm with Busey, and I mean, La Bamba is probably pretty good. I don't know. Generally, I kind of avoid music biopics. I'm Not There, I hated when it came out. I saw it in the theater and I fucking hated it, which means I'd probably love it now. Every movie I ever hated in the theater later, I was like, became one of my favorite movies. going head to head with fucking.
Oh, I thought you were gonna do the fucking.
All right, should I read some poetry now that nobody's watching? I really don't like this lighting. Maybe I'll switch to this side. Oh shit! Did you see that catch? Bam! No one's watching. Just talking about boring movie shit. It's become a movie podcast. I don't know, man. I should review like real people's performances. Maybe I should talk about the open mic. Oh yeah, I want to talk about the MFA prom. I mean, it was held in a Baptist church on a time when they shut the campus down and arrested these protesters and canceled their commencement speech. And yet they're still doing this MFA prom. Shame on Columbia MFA program. I think the food really fucked me up. My body's been like really beat up the last couple of days, and it's because of all the poison that those people eat. Rich people think they can get away with anything because they can go to the doctor and get anything done that they need to get done, get first-rate medical care. But you shouldn't eat that garbage, and all that catering was fucking garbage. No offense to the catering people. I mean, God bless them for doing what they do. It was an interesting glimpse. You know, my life is, I've always lived in the kind of weird shadow of Columbia University in just the saddest way. Even when I was in college, my freshman year of college, there was this girl that lived in our dorm who everybody kind of had a crush on. And she dated this guy who went to Columbia University. She went to OU in Athens, Ohio, and she'd go to New York City every fucking weekend to be with her boyfriend who went to Columbia. It's a goddamn shame. That's what, you know, my whole life. That's a metaphor for my whole life. It's just been like that. So I've worked there. So of course I had to go to the Columbia MFA prom with the future literary establishment of America. It was pretty ritzy, I gotta say. But I don't know. I think they have a income requirement. It's part of their application process. You have to send them some pay stubs and your net worth, your bank statement, your assets. The open mic was fun this week. It was Star Wars week, even though I'm not, not a huge Star Wars nerd or anything. Maybe I'll read some fucking poetry for a sec. Just let me read. I want to read. I want to read the things that I've written since fucking last week here at my little stone table. I hope I don't get robbed. Okay. I don't think I read this. "5-5 Pret-a-Porter report. Failed a couple grades in poetry world in adult life. I guess you like the insider." Should I have gone to the fucking Eileen Miles reading? Now I feel like I'm missing it and everybody's gonna be there without me. To be honest, I have to work tomorrow night. I've had to work pretty much every week this spring. I kind of just want a little break. And I don't know, it's just like I definitely have been influenced by the last couple Eileen Miles readings. I filmed the one in 2019 in the Sanctuary, which is the big room. And I was editing it right before we went to Paris in 2019. God, hard to believe that was 5 years ago. But it did, if you read that Romana Clef book, the book that I wrote in Paris, the Eileen Miles reading had a big influence on that, definitely. Just listening to that reading and listening to those poems that I think were in that book, Evolution. And then there was a reading a couple years ago with the book from Yale, that Yale series that they do. Let me keep walking. Maybe I'll walk to Bleeco Park. I have all my shit. It's getting kind of dark and weird. Should I go that way? And, you know, I think I filmed the last reading. So it's like, you know, there's definitely things that Eileen Miles said during those readings that, like, have stayed with me and were influential. And so that, in that respect, I kind of hate to miss it. But at the same time, I don't know, maybe I should fucking try to come up with my own fucking ideas, not rely on this person to... But I mean, I think that's one of the qualities of poetry and a great poet, and one of the things that we go to poetry for is it's just a way to kind of, or it can be a way to get your thinking moving in kind of a more vigorous, you know, inspired, passionate way. You know, like I was reading Whalen, Scenes from the Life at a Capitol on the way over. You know, and even just being exposed to that quality of what he's doing for a little while kind of sharpens what you're thinking and doing, and can get you. So I'm doing this reading next Thursday. I've got a few good shows. I think I've kind of talked about them a little bit on here, but I've got a few good shows coming up. I'm doing so this reading next Thursday. I mean, I don't know if it's the biggest reading I've ever done, but you know, in a certain way, it is. It's definitely like probably, I don't know. It's one of the most important readings I've ever done, no question. There's that Raoul's place right there. Next Thursday at Unnameable for greetings. Shout out to Jeffrey Joe Nelson, my man. He's one of the coolest guys in New York poetry. I respect anybody that wears a cowboy hat in New York City. At this point, I was wearing the cowboy hat for a while. Maybe I'll bring that back. You know, it's the Eli Cash look. And so he had the, I don't know if this was on purpose or what, but I'd like to believe it was. You know, he had the, you know, editorial insight to put me on the same bill as one of my favorite poets and one of the kind of originators of so-called language poetry. This guy, Bruce Andrews, who is I gotta say, is kind of underknown. Especially amongst language school. I mean, Sillyman, all those West Coast people kind of get more, you know, they kind of publicize their side of language. You know, they really manufactured that out, the whole branding of that. And, you know, Bernstein, the East Coast language poets, I don't know, they're a little more organic about it or something, a little more cloaked in mystery. They're not quite out in the sunshine so much. They're in the dark city. But, yeah, Bruce Andrews.
You know what I mean? It's just kind of like...
I first saw at Poetry Project, he would do, at the New Year's Day, he would do these incredible readings with his wife or his partner, Sally, and I forget her last name, but Sally Silvers, I think. And he would like read, and so his poetry is very like, he's a political science professor at Fordham, and if you go on Pin Sound, there's an amazing like talk he gives in the 80s at the Poetry Project, just about it's about Rimbaud and, you know, blah blah blah, language poetry sort of thing, and it's sort of deconstructionist. I don't know, you just got to listen to the lecture, and so you can see that, you know, to some degree, I think that language poetry was kind of taking it further that way. You know, Bruce Andrews does have a lot of discontinuity, kind of jumps, improvisation, kind of, but there's this political aspect, political consciousness. You know, he was actually on the O'Reilly Factor in 2006 because they were trying to sort of slander him as like a far left professor in the University that was like trying to, brainwash his students against the Iraq War, Bush or something. So he's cool in that way too. And, there's things, one of the things about, especially New York poetry or avant-garde poetry, that I feel an affinity with, or like I feel like it's where I sort of belong, is just the permission that it gives you. There are certain poets that do things that maybe you're not supposed to do, or fucking you're told not to do, be fucking incoherent, be discontinuity, have whatever that may be. A lot of the so-called experimental things that happen are a way of just trying things to see if they work. So like live streaming like this for me would be like an example of a way of giving myself permission. And I don't know, to some degree, I guess I'm the kind of person that's like, I'm lame enough that I have to look for precedents for that stuff. That's one reason why I'm so interested in the history. Things like Spalding Gray, things like Gene Shepard, things like AM radio, Joe Franklin, whatever, language poetry, Bruce Andrews, Bernadette Mayer, all of these things they're showing you, it's almost like, I don't know if other people's work is like this, but, and maybe this is just who I am and how I work, but I feel like my work is an imitation of like literally everything I've ever read and seen that I liked and that I wanted to use. So for me, a lot of what reading poetry is to get ideas about how I want to do stuff and to have some place to borrow from. And so Bruce Andrews, the way that he reads, the way that he writes, where there's sort of a devil-may-care attitude about connecting things, or, he kind of will just have these kind of floating phrases where he'll just say a phrase and then there will be a pause and then the next phrase and then the next phrase. He's almost like like Alex Trebek, or, in high school, the In the Know, the guy who hosted In the Know in Columbus. He's got this kind of quiz show way that he reads, because every phrase is almost like a new clue or category or something, where it's like, it's kind of resetting. Did I get all my shit? I hope I have all my shit. I am not going to go down McDougal. It's a minefield of people that I may sort of know me, or probably not. But that's what's awkward about it. That's what's hard about living in New York, at least for me. It's like you're in a state with so many people where like you kind of know them, but they don't really know you that well. I've gotten into that state with a lot of people. And so, the initial like good impression and like hopefulness of like, oh, this guy's cool, he lives in New York, we're gonna be friends, has kind of collapsed and popped into like a deflated, like, well, I kind of know this guy, but he doesn't really talk to me, so he's kind of weird. But he's like around, so he's like a creep in that way. He's just kind of around and staring at me and not saying anything. But we're friends on social media for some reason. Maybe people can relate in the comments. Oh man, am I actually going to Bleecker Park? It's such a nice night out. I guess, it's better to be outside. It's better to be outside right now. Even though I've kind of walked the West Village to death. I've touristed it to death. It's still the place to go. Bleecker Park, place to be. What the fuck was I talking about? Poetry, is like a poetry lesson kind of. You know, the same thing with stand-up comedy where it's like, you know, if you watch somebody who's really good at it do it, it can almost make you better at it because they kind of show you, oh, it's like this. And then you kind of like absorb, you're not like you're totally imitating them, but you kind of absorb something about like the right way to do it. But then if you don't stay in touch with that, you kind of go back on your own stuff. You know, it doesn't hurt every once in a while. Or like Philip, I got to give a shout out to Philip. And I do want to say this, because I do feel like Philip is kind of like this huge shadow force in New York City poetry over the last decade and doesn't get enough credit. He kind of moves in the shadows. I mean, well, on Monday at the open mic, we were wrapping up. We were, you know, saying our goodbyes by the soundboard and shit. And I turn around, who's there but Philip? The enchanted... you know, woodland sprite guide, you know, of ours.
We're starting a new.
You know, it was nice. He showed up just to kind of walk me to the subway. So we walked from fucking KGB to Canal Street. And I mean, Philip is a teacher all the time. When he's texting you, when he's having a conversation with you, he comes to you. He brings so much energy. He's so friendly, you know? And, you know, I'm not exactly sure the whole story, but his motley poetry group at Torn Page, you know, that whole 1080 Press thing, I'm pretty sure started there. And a lot of the people who are kind of reading at Poetry Project Now or various places around town, unnameable, you know, the people who are kind of whatever, the in people, the people who are really at the center of what's going on with, you know, the younger edge that's not the establishment, they're all kind of students of Philip, to be honest. And I'm not talking about myself. I mean, I'm talking about the kind of the 1080 Press people, you know, the people who met in Motley. Like I said, I don't know the whole story, so I don't want to necessarily speak, you know, too much like I know what I'm talking about, but you know, he's a teacher in the way that he lives, and you know, the way that he moves through the city. You'll run into Philip, you know, in Manhattan. You'll run into him in Central Park. You'll run into him near Union Square and Whole Foods, and you'll go on an adventure. You know, he's always down to be friendly. And he sends these incredible texts that are like poems, that are sort of combinations of everything that you've talked about, mixed with just the most, you know, off the wall, kind of generative, amazing, learned, you know, he's got thousands, you know, he's thinking about poetry history from all time. He's thinking about the Fairy Queen or fucking, you know, medieval poetry, Sappho, whatever, as he knows a lot about meter, so that's all in there. And when you're with him, it's almost like a banter. You're doing characters, there's like a game, there's like a word game and like kind of role-playing game that's happening. And I don't know. I think as poets, it's kind of strange how being together or being with other poets is part of like what shapes you and gets you up to speed. You know, because our society is kind of so hostile to poetry in a lot of ways, and it doesn't have a lot of places to show its head, really. You know, everything you know, this is why we had to escape to New York, and because it's the city of poetry where it happens, and there's poets here, and we heard about that, and how do we sort of become one of them, you know? Comics, you know, same thing. There's this kind of romanticism of being with all the other fucking comedians and being at the roast. I followed the Comedy Store on TikTok. I think, what is it? Netflix is a joke festival week or so. All the comedians are in LA. And it was like the Comedy Store. John Mulaney and somebody else did drop-ins. And all the comedians who mattered are in the basement hanging out. Fucking Tony, Kill Tony guy's there. Andrew Sullivan is there. The alt-right, basically the alt-right. It's an alt-right men's meeting, essentially. Joe Rogan, all the, Steve Bannon. Stephen Miller's there. Trump is there. The king of the Roastmaster General. Commander-in-Chief of roasting. I mean, that's why it drives me nuts about the roasting. It's like everybody's an insult comedian now. Everybody in our culture is like a fucking insult comic. Everybody's fucking Don Rickles now. They just did the roast of Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady wants to be an insult comic. It's like, dude, you won 7 Super Bowls and, got to have sex with Giselle for 20 years. Like, what the fuck do you want to roast people for? Like, are you kidding me? Like, don't you have a million... Can't your comedy be about something constructive? Tom Brady. I just don't get it. I guess it's cathartic or therapeutic or it's a head shrinking. That's the point of roasting, I guess, is to like humble you, bring you down to earth so your head doesn't get too big. Hey, we're gonna break your balls, pal. We're just breaking your balls. It's a mafia thing, it's a macho thing. I mean, all of the people that I dislike the most in my life, that was like their sense of humor. My manager at this restaurant I worked in Columbus, he was the kind of guy who was like a prick. He'd like kid you about stuff and like he was a prick. It's like, hey, hey, I'm just kidding. It's like, well, you're a fucking prick. I don't get that. It's like super macho. It's a way, I guess, of testing each other. How seriously do you take yourself? Are you gonna get offended about this? Like, don't take yourself so seriously. I think people have lost that. I think people take everything very seriously. Most of all themselves. They definitely are taking themselves very seriously. We're kind of in the era of that. Of taking ourselves super seriously on the internet. Being public about it. We're all like these politician, forward-facing. I want to make a public statement. I want to share my life. What the fuck am I doing? Why am I on Hudson? I don't need to be on Hudson. We went to this restaurant, Wild, up here. It's gluten-free. The whole menu is fucking gluten-free. It's on Hudson. I recommend that. Wild. I had the chicken parmesan. The fact that I can even get a chicken parmesan gluten-free is pretty cool. Yeah, so we're roast culture. It seems to go hand in hand with finance douchebag culture. Let's just give all of our money to the people who are 6'5". Just give them our money, and they can just roast each other. And we'll die. How does that sound? Give all of the money and the women to the guys who are 6'5". That's basically what finance is. It's like, let's take all of the money in our society, give it to a bunch of pricks who are 6'5". Finance bros. They're gonna invest it. They're investors. And, the rest of us will just melt to death. How does that sound? Me, I'm just going to live stream my little poetry life till the world cooks itself like a child in a locked car in a Walmart parking lot of greenhouse gases. We are all, 8 billion of us. We're just like a child that's locked in a car. Here on the Friends, we're at the Friends. This happens all day, every day. This. Every fucking day. Anytime you could come here. And there's people gathered. Like it's fucking Close Encounters. How fucking crazy is that? For Friends. for the television show Friends. There it is, people. Chandler. Look, they moved a long time ago. They moved a long time ago. They don't live here anymore. They're all old now. They've got Botox. They've got fillers. You know, fucking Chandler's dead. Chandler's dead, okay? He drowned from, what did he do? Ketamine? At least he died in a cool way. He died like some shithead in Bushwick. That's like a Bushwick OD. He fucking OD'd on, he like took too much ketamine and drowned in his hot tub. That's like the most trust fund Bushwick way you could go, I think. Chandler. That's legit, Chandler. So yeah, they're gone. They're not there anymore. I don't know why these people are coming here. Why do you keep coming to the friend's apartment? They're dead. They're all dead. They all died in a horrible Botox accident. They all Botox themselves to death, okay? They're gone.
I think not everyone should.
It's like, you know, there's plenty of... I don't see people making pilgrimages to fucking James Baldwin's townhouse like this. How come these people aren't at James Baldwin's townhouse? They're at the fucking friend's apartment. Oh, this used to be called the Theatre de Lis. Like the Fleur de Lis. Now it's the Lucille Lortel. Somebody bought it, I think, and named it after their wife. But I think Theatre de Lis is a way cooler name. Not that there's anything wrong with Lucille Lortel, but fuck, should I go Bleecker? I'm kind of digging being on Christopher Street in a way. There's a downtown fairy singing out Proud Mary as she waltzes down Christopher Street. Philip was doing the lyrics from Halloween Parade. I bought a fucking iMac on this street. I bought an iMac from this lady that lived at 96 Christopher. And I carried it home on the subway in my arms. That was in 2012. See, my history with the city goes deep. See, that's what I realize now. For better or worse, it's like I've been here so long, it's just like, God damn. This is my life, you know? It's not like I'm still waiting for something to happen and I'm waiting to make it and, you know, just how sad. You know, when I came here, I don't necessarily think I was going to take the town by storm. I guess I didn't really have a plan, and that's why things ended up this way. I did just move here to be an artist. I thought if you just do things, people will notice, and that's how you get famous. You know, but it's like you have to connect these things to people. You know, people aren't just gonna, I don't know, unless you're really good. If you're really good, I guess, you create your own word of mouth and things spread that way, but I don't know. We live in selfish times and everybody's trying to self-promote, and so how do you stand out? How do you stand above? How do you do better? How do you prove yourself that you're unequivocally, you know, deserve attention, money, and yet the fucking things that people pay attention to are so goddamn stupid. Kill Tony. Andrew Sullivan, Bert Kreischer. If these are like the fucking eminences of comedy, count me out. You know, part of the intention of the open mic was to get people thinking in a different way about comedy. Because I go to these comedy clubs and I am like appalled at the toxic poverty. You know, it's just like mental, it's imaginatively impoverished. You know, it's just men that for the most part are just like not trying to change and get like validation for being fucking really sick, basically. And You know, but I love the idea that there's a form of public speech on a microphone. And, you know, I thought with KGB we could, you know, have a room where people respected something that was, I tried to give people a chance. There were certain artists on the open mic that really were doing kind of, I thought, formalistically stuff that should be done, like as far as like stand-up talking, you know, people like Millie Ephraim. She was very interesting when she would do her kind of notepad. She had like bullet points about things she wanted to talk about, so it was comedy, but it wasn't necessarily, you know, jokes, and it was just kind of like thoughtful public discourse. You know, Sasha was like that. She had sort of things that were just things she wanted to talk about that weren't necessarily jokes or anything. A lot, I guess more maybe female stand-up comedians would do that kind of stuff. And so, I don't know, I thought if we gave a platform to that kind of thing, you know, maybe it would be like, okay, this is kind of groundbreaking, new, it's a little different than what we typically see. We go to fucking, you know, these kind of toxic McDougal Street clubs or whatever the fuck. Wherever it is, I don't know. Even online, it's fucking toxic bullshit. It's all, you know, Trump is the king of the insult comics. You know, that's how he got all his attention. Jeb, you're low energy. You know, he has this quirky way of kind of pinpointing Sleepy Joe, Crooked Hillary. Right? I mean, that's all he had to fucking say. That's all he had to fucking say was Crooked Hillary.
Who are you talking to?
My mom.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
nice. I thought I called one.
Okay, so, okay. Oh my God. That's fucking crazy, dude. Okay, so anything can happen in New York. That woman that just interrupted my live stream, that was Sarah Jessica Parker. That is fucking insane. That woman who just said, "Who you talking to?" Well, because I was talking about the Trump shit. So all Sarah Jessica Parker heard me say was Crooked Hillary. Oh my God. Sarah Jessica Parker thinks I'm a Trumper. This is not good. How do I undo this? I'm not a Trumper. I was just characterizing him. Okay, I don't even know. How can I even go on? I mean, Sarah Jessica Parker just live bombed my live stream. And I mean, I lied to her, but is that what I should have said? Should I have said I'm talking to my mom? I kind of went back hard with that. Did you hear how hard I said that? That was very New York. Well, she sounded New York. She kind of put on a New York. She was nice. When I looked at her, she was smiling. She wasn't like, I think, you know, I wasn't trying to film her. You know, I wasn't even like cognizant that was her. You know, I'm not paparazzi. This happens every time I come to the fucking West Village. People are like, what the fuck are you doing streaming? Look, I'm doing my NPC streaming, okay? Why don't you write about it in your local newspaper? Complain. What are these streamers doing with their selfie sticks in our neighborhood? We need a selfie stick ban. We need a streaming ban. They'll probably put in some kind of blockers. They'll put in streaming blockers. I didn't know what to do. When I saw her, I was like, oh shit. It's fucking Sarah Jessica Parker. It's Carrie Bradshaw. Carrie Bradshaw's on my... Does this count as an episode of Sex and the City? I think this counts.
This is kind of
I think this counts as an episode of the Sex and the City reboot. We're like part of the universe now. We're part of the Sex and the City universe. We're canon. Scenes from Life is SATC canon, okay? I came back really hard with that. I'm just too high to deal with Sarah Jessica Parker right now. She's just gonna think I'm a monster. I'm just too high to be nice. Anyway. Oh boy, all right. Well, let me go in the other entrance to the park. Maybe there won't be celebrities that way. You know, I was just trying to walk around her. I wasn't like trying to film her or anything. I was like, this woman is slow. I got shit to do. I'm on my fucking live stream. Get the fuck out of the way, Sarah Jessica Parker. No, I like Sarah. She's an LA story, right? Sarah Jessica Parker predates Broderick and Sex and the City, okay? I mean, to be honest though, I mean, it seems like she hasn't done a lot of stuff outside of Carrie Bradshaw. Since that show's been on, you know, like how many other movies has she been in? Doesn't seem like she really does that much other stuff. So yeah, let's see. Why don't we sit here for now? Wow, just having huge celebrity guest stars. You missed it. In case you're just tuning in, we are just leaving our exclusive interview with Sarah Jessica Parker. Our live streams featured a brief interaction with Sarah Jessica Parker. It feels like a good omen. I'm technically a Sex and the City boyfriend now. So there's Aiden, there's Mr. Big. There's Scenes from My Life. He hosts this open mic at KGB Bar. That could be like an episode of Girls. I could have dated like Shoshana probably. You know, or maybe whatever Jemima Kirk's character's name is. I don't know. She'd probably be into somebody who's a little more, I don't know, cooler than me.